My wife said 5 words that completely destroyed everything. I thought I knew. David isn't biologically yours. We've been married for 44 years. I'd spent 43 years raising my son, David. It turns out, my whole life was built on a lie, and I had no idea until our anniversary dinner last week. I'm 71 years old. My name is Thomas. Last Tuesday, my wife Patricia wanted to go to Antonio's to celebrate our anniversary. It's the same restaurant where I proposed to her back in 1981. We ordered some wine. We laughed. We held hands across the table, just like old times. Then Patricia looked at me and said, "Tom, I need to tell you something." I saw her hand was shaking. Patricia never shakes. She leaned in and whispered, "David isn't yours. Biologically." In that moment, everything just stopped. The sounds of the restaurant faded away. She explained through tears. When we first started dating, I was seeing someone else. It ended, but then I found out I was pregnant. I honestly didn't know who the father was. By the time I figured it out, we were already engaged. You were just so happy about the baby. I could only manage to say 43 years. "You've lied to me for 43 years. I asked her if David knew. She shook her head no. Then I asked if his real father knew. She told me he had died 20 years ago. The question that burned in my mind was, why are you telling me this now? She pulled out her phone and showed me a text from David. It read, "Did that ancestry DNA test? Says Dad and I aren't related? Must be a mistake. The DNA test." That was it. I stood up, left enough cash on the table to cover the bill, and walked out. I drove home alone and sat in the quiet of our house, the house where we raised David, where every memory was now suddenly tainted. I couldn't breathe. How could 43 years of my life be a lie? 3 days later, we met David at a diner. He was already there, his laptop open on the table. It was clear he'd been doing his own research. "The company says their tests are 99.9% accurate," he said, looking from me to his mom. "What's going on?" Patricia reached for my hand, but I pulled away. She took a deep breath and said, "When your dad and I first got together, I was seeing someone else briefly. I got pregnant, and I didn't know for sure who the father was." David's face went pale. "So you're saying, Dad isn't my biological father?" I finally spoke up. "I raised you for 43 years, I said, my voice shaking. "But biologically, you're not mine." The word "no" escaped his lips, barely a whisper. Then he asked, "Who is?" Patricia told him. "His name was Mark Stevenson. He passed away 20 years ago. He never knew about you." David stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "Did you know when I was born?" he asked his mother. Patricia hesitated for a split second, but that was all the answer he needed. "You knew," David said, his voice rising with disbelief. "For 43 years you knew," I tried to intervene, David, but he cut me off. "She lied to both of us." He grabbed his laptop and backed away from the table. "I need some time," and just like that he was gone. 2 weeks of deafening silence followed. Then, David showed up at our door, looking exhausted. "I found Mark's family," he said, his voice flat. "His widow sent me photos. I look exactly like his other kids. My half-siblings." He showed us the pictures on his phone. The resemblance was undeniable. Deborah, his widow, said Mark was a good man. She said he would have loved to have known me. I couldn't help it. "I love you," I said. "I always have." David looked at me, his eyes filled with a pain I'd never seen before. "But you're not my father." "Yes, I am," I insisted. "No," he shot back. "Genetically, I am Mark Stevenson's son. I spent 43 years thinking I knew my history, my medical background. All of it was a lie." Patricia was sobbing uncontrollably. David turned his attention back to me. "Is it fair that I used your medical history for my family's genetic counseling? That I gave doctors the wrong information all these years?" "I hadn't even thought of that." He looked at both of us. "I need space. From both of you. Especially you, Mom." Then he looked back at me. "You're still my dad. You raised me. But everything else changes now." He left, and the front door clicked shut behind him, leaving us in the ruins of our family. What had we done? A month went by. I saw David post pictures on social media from California. He was with his half-siblings, and they all looked so happy together. Back home, things were cold. I moved into the guest room. One night, I couldn't sleep, so I went up to the attic to clean things out. In a dusty corner, I found an old shoebox filled with letters. Dozens of them. All handwritten by Patricia, dated, but never sent. I opened the first one. dated March 15, 1981. Dear Tom, David smiled at you today. You actually cried. Seeing you hold him, I know I can never tell you the truth. You are his real father, not Mark. I sat there on the attic floor and read every single one. 43 years of her hidden confessions. One from a few years later read, David said Dada today. You recorded it 17 times on the cassette player. I almost told you then. But you were just so happy. And another, David graduated from kindergarten today. You took the whole day off work to be there. Mark wouldn't have done that. You're the father he needs and deserves. The last letter was written just 6 months ago. David sent me one of those DNA test kits for my birthday. I knew this day would come. I'm so tired of lying. I have to tell you, even if it destroys us. I gathered the letters and took them downstairs. Patricia was in the kitchen, making tea. I found these, I said, placing the box on the table. Her face went completely white. We sat there for a long time. I don't know if I can forgive you, I told her honestly. Maybe I never will, but reading these, I understand why you did it. It doesn't make it right, but I understand. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. Do you still love me? She whispered. A part of me screamed no, but my heart said something else. Yes, I admitted. I hate that I do. But yes. I looked at the letters, at the woman I'd loved for nearly half a century. Love won't fix this, I said. But maybe it's enough to start. 3 months later, David called. Dad, he said, meeting Mark's kids made me realize something. He gave me my DNA, that's it. You raised me. You chose to be my father every single day for 43 years. And that means more than anything. The next time we saw each other, we hugged for the first time in months. You're my dad, he said, holding on tight. Not Mark. You. It's been a year now. Our family is different, but we're healing. David has a relationship with his half-siblings, which is good. Patricia and I are rebuilding our trust, one day at a time. It's hard work. I've learned that David is my son, not because of biology or DNA, but because I chose him and he chose me. Every single day. That's what being a father really means. Sometimes families break. But if they're lucky and if they work hard enough, they can heal. Not perfectly, but enough. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've been through something that's tested your family, I hope you know that healing is possible. Please subscribe for more stories about life, love, and the messy business of being human.